I know who you are very well. I am friends with Kyle and Mercedes, and my son's in the 1X, so we get to hear about you all the time.
I just didn't want you to think I forgot, Cosette. I certainly didn't.
All right. Well, as any good lesson starts, we start with our objectives and our learning targets. So today we're going to know what it means to be a Nebraska Teacher of the Year. We're going to understand the application process and be able to do some self-reflection, which as the panelists will tell you is a big part of the application. And let's see. Okay, so I'm going to let the panelists take over. So what does it mean to be Teacher of the Year? And I believe this starts with Michael.
All right, I'm on deck, huh? So we always want to talk to people because, any sort of program like this, there are a lot of misconceptions that exist out there. People hear things about it. They think they know what it's about. It sounds really intimidating to some people. And what it actually is and what people think it is, we think it's really important to parse out what the program is really about so that one, people know what they're getting into, and two, so that it might actually encourage more people to apply. We want people applying for Nebraska Teacher of the Year. And there's so many qualified people in the state. Everybody has such an incredible skill set and wonderful things that they are contributing to youth in this state that we need to always be celebrating that through any way, shape, or form. And so my job here is really to talk about the difference between the misconception about Nebraska Teacher of the Year, which is that it's a recognition program, which certainly there is recognition associated with it. I think it would be disingenuous to claim that there isn't recognition associated with Nebraska Teacher of the Year. But what the program is designed to be at its very core is leadership professional development. That's what it really is. And one thing that, I've been thinking about preparing for this, like, what is the highlight of the program that I think is like the most important part of the program? And for me, it all comes down to choice. That when you are initially honored as a Nebraska Teacher of the Year, then it becomes time to get to work and you have this choice over what the work is going to be for you. What is your theme going to be? What is it going to be that you are passionate about in the profession that you want to share with others in the profession? And every one of us who has been recognized in the past is really passionate about a dimension of the profession. And of course there's overlap because, we're all to some extent generalists in the profession, but we also like to specialize in certain things as well. And the program really gives you an opportunity to ask yourself, what is my voice? How am I going to develop my voice? How am I going to become a leader? How am I going to share my passion with other people so that it is not about me, it is about us? And to me, that's really what the program is. How can we be part of creating the best us that we possibly can out there? And, there's some things that are listed on the slide there, and I'd throw it out to any of my fellow panel members who'd want to talk about access or the networking possibilities or how we go about sharing and disseminating ideas, because we all have our little talking points that we like to talk about. So I just thought I'd get the ball rolling there, and I want to kick it out to the other panelists so that other people have a chance to contribute.
I'm just pausing for a second because my internet connection is unstable. So was I sharing correctly for you all? Could you all see the slide? Was it moving around a lot? Okay.
Good to be.
Everything looked fine to me.
Okay, this stuff makes me nervous, y'all. Okay. let me share again, and then I'll get the next point going. Thank you.
Anybody want to jump in?
I will, just a little bit.
Thanks, Betsy.
I really loved what you said about it's about developing the best you. And I agree with that 100%, but I'd take it a couple steps down the road a little bit. I think that it became for me the way to serve and to develop the very best us. And everyone that I met that were teachers of the year, I felt like they just demonstrated that all through the time that I spent with them in person and the times that I spent with them on communication through social media, that whatever we were doing at the time. It was about what could we take from this to go back to our schools, to go back to Nebraska or wherever we were from, and work harder, work better, create opportunities for our kids and maybe even for some of our fellow teachers.
Thank you. Our next point was about the application process. And I don't have who is going to actually talk about it, but we're going to talk a little bit about the nomination, the writing component, and cover each piece of these things. So I believe, Sydney, you were going to talk about the writing component, right?
Sure. Yes, I can definitely do that. So the nomination is, you can either be nominated by a colleague, a student, someone in the community, or you can self-nominate. And I think that there is no shame in that. And so don't feel like you are undeserving of this opportunity, if that's the case. And then after the nomination process, it is a pretty lengthy application. I think that if I think really hard about it, I probably spent close to 40 hours working on the essays. The advice that I was given by Amber Vlasnik, who I believe was 2016 Nebraska Teacher of the Year, also a link, was to tell stories. Anyone can write an essay on educational philosophy, but a great Nebraska Teacher of the Year and any great state Teacher of the Year is able to really tell stories and paint a picture of what it's like to be a teacher in our public school system. Because so much of the purpose of this program is that you get this awesome platform for advocacy. And so we want to put people in front of legislatures and conference rooms and at the table where decisions are made, who are able to really help people understand what it's like to be a teacher when they don't have that same privilege that we do, but they're the ones who are making the decisions about what happens inside the classroom. And so my advice with the writing component with the essays is to really try and tell stories from your classroom. Talk about students that you've had, talk about experiences that you've had, talk about your failures as a teacher and how you grew from them, because that's going to really demonstrate what you can do with the platform in terms of helping develop future teachers who are coming down the pipeline.
Thank you. And Sydney, I think you touched a little bit on it not being a secret nomination. Could one of the panelists, I know you guys had said that a couple of times in some of our planning meetings. So could you talk a little bit about why it's okay to self-nominate? I mean, educators are a humble people. So could someone address that? Go ahead, Bob.
I'll take that one because I self-nominated. I had a superintendent that thought the nomination process was taking the application and putting it on the bulletin board on the staff room door. And I walked past it for 10 years, just knowing that he would be difficult to work with. And when I finally heard that he was retiring on that 11th year, I finally took it down and applied. And I had come from a church service that had talked about being humble, and I almost canceled I already sent the application in. I'd worked on it all summer, off and on, and I almost canceled and then changed my mind. And obviously there was a reason that that I was I don't refused to give up the nomination at that point in time, and then did eventually was the awardee that year. But a lot of the things that happen during that Teacher of the Year is the way it changes your worldview. So that's part of the application process. And it's really a great time to self-examine. just applying, whether you send the application in or not, just going through that application process will allow you to grow as a professional. So I would encourage you to go through that process, just simply to make you better for your young charges in your classroom, no matter what age levels you teach.
Thanks, Bob.
Also with the nomination, we didn't have nominations back in 2000. It's kind of a newer phenomenon, but it was nice to have Celine Robertson, who is another link, who had been the teacher of the year, who every day in the mailroom would poke me on the shoulder and go, "Do you have your application in yet?" And it was nice to have someone pushing me and having to be able to say that Celine had suggested that I do that. So if you're looking, for someone to nominate you, just talk to any of us and we'll be happy to nominate you. Because it's sometimes easier to ask for letters of recommendation, to say, I've been nominated and I'd like you to help me apply and write a letter of recommendation.
Yeah, the nomination pieces, I mean, even, I was 5 years ago, I was 2016, and it's still even relatively new for me. But ultimately, I view the nomination more as a nudge than anything else, right? Because that written component that we just got done talking about is all you, right? And so, that's, you're still going to get to kind of what Esau was talking about, that we're all by nature of this profession humble. And so I've talked to some folks who were uncertain even after, being encouraged by a good number of people, but you need to do it. And I guess I'll take this time just to say one quick thing as a post-op, having done my year and then done several years afterwards where I've stayed involved, that by virtue of being an educator that cares, let me tell you, you deserve a seat at the table, right? And I think that we inherently underestimate our skill set and our passion. And having been around folks that have significant influence on our profession and what we do, and even in other areas, we're right there with them in terms of what we bring to the table. But this is the critical first step to show that you should be there.
Thank you.
And
I
real
know.
quick,
Oh, go ahead, Sydney.
oh, sorry. I was going to say real quick to circle back to what you mentioned about it's not a secret nomination. When someone nominates you, it sends you an email with what they wrote about you. And that's really nice too. And I think is a helpful push as well. I still have the email that I got when Amber nominated me, and I remember the things that she wrote in it, and that was really encouraging, and was the equivalent of that nudge on the shoulder in the mailroom, like Mr. Heineman mentioned.
It's
I
kind of
still have
nice.
the nomination I got from Bob.
Yeah, it's kind of nice that you know who it is that nominated you, because they are kind of like your guide. I mean, when I would start doubting myself, I'd go to John, who nominated me, and say, oh, I feel like quitting. I don't know if anything's making sense in this paper anymore, because it is all self-reflection and evaluating yourself as a teacher and your work in the classroom and your students that you have had experiences with. And after a while, you need someone to talk to, and someone that will say, you're on the right track, take it. And I think Maddie Fennell looked at my application too and helped me with, said, well, you might want to develop this a little more. I don't think you should be afraid of that. I taught writing almost all of my life, and I was intimidated by it. And I think that going to somebody else and saying to them, take a look and help me edit a little bit and tell me what you think and what reactions you're getting from this. So you don't have to do it all alone. You can have guides, guardian angels along the way.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I know that we did put that on this slide too, is that it I was never a teacher of the year, but working with the panelists today, that was one thing that was echoed, was make sure you have a group of cheerleaders around you to cheer you on and to walk with you through this. The other thing, I think this might be for the video component. Can someone speak to that piece of the application?
Well, I'll actually speak to that, because this year it's kind of unique. I don't know if anyone has looked at the 2022 application, but They have for this year postponed the recording piece of the lesson. You still have to do a recording where you have to present something that you're passionate about, that you would, a kind of a thing that you would enact as change, or you feel passionate about bringing as kind of an objective during your Teacher of the year. But with the application process and with COVID still being in place, the in-classroom lesson that you've usually had to record in the past has been postponed. And so if you look at NDE's site, the 2022 application, when you pull that PDF up, it'll be kind of confusing because the video part is all kind of in one line, but there's two videos. There's the lesson plan, which you still have to write and submit, but the recording of the teaching of it has been postponed, I think, just for this year. And it was the same last year too. During my application phase, I had to record that 2.5-minute kind of sales pitch almost of this was my kind of hot topic, so to speak, but did not have to record that lesson. So if
I
they're
don't think we
here to
did
do
that.
it, what's that?
I don't think we did that. I think in 2006, John, I don't know about 2000, but in 2006, we didn't have to do that process.
You didn't have to do the video. It is a, I tell you what, there's nothing that will, I can't support the whole idea of this being a professional development experience enough. When you have to record yourself and then watch yourself, I remember doing that for the Presidential Award in Math and Science, and waiting 2.5 years to find out I did not get it. I was only a finalist. But I remember what pains I took to record myself and then assess myself. And I think there's real value in doing so. And this whole process that you're going to go through of applying and writing those essays and doing 20 different takes before you actually get that 2.5-minute video right. Maybe it was 40 for me, I'm not sure. It really is a professional development experience. And then when you get it, it just continues to be. So, but this year you don't have to record that lesson.
Thank you. I think we'll move on to the next slide. So
Could
I think we're, oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
Could I do one more thing on the writing component? You also have to have a maximum of a 2-page resume. And this is one place where don't be shy about the things that you've done, including being on the prom committee or sponsoring the sophomore class or the curriculum committees that you've been on or chaired, or the new curriculum that you wrote for a class or a section, or maybe a whole new class that you added to your school. Go back and really think about all those things that you just kind of do naturally to make sure that you get that on your resume, so we can have a full picture of who you are and what your career has been.
That's really good advice from John, and many of us serve at times. I think Laura's got an awesome rotation going, I think, of all of us, where we will serve on the application review committee periodically. And good general advice for applications is to be as specific as you can about what you do well. And I agree with John that, reflecting back on reviewing applications, we get tons of great applications and everybody does something amazing. And the more we know about what you excel at and what could really help to develop your leadership skills, the easier it is to see someone in that role.
I had to laugh at mine because I wondered what they thought when I said I coached intramural basketball. All 5 foot of me, not even 5 foot, but I did. And I think it's that kind of thing where you can smile, and I think somebody who's reading it would smile too, and think, oh, she does, I thought she was an arts person, a writing person, whatever. I think all those details make such a big difference.
Thank you. We did mention Laura. Laura, I didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself. Oh, she's saying no.
That's okay. I can. I put it in the chat. I'm Laura Seifel. I've been at the Department of Education since 1998 and became the coordinator of the program since 2008. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm just here to listen to y'all and provide additional context or feedback if you'd like on that. In regards to the video piece, that is right. The public information piece of the video is a new little video piece that we tried in the last couple of years. So I try to do something a little bit new or change something every year to make it just a little bit stronger, better and stuff. So thanks for letting me be a part tonight.
Thank you for being here, Laura. Okay, so let's move on to like we were kind of hanging around the confidence idea. So let's talk a little bit about, do you have the right stuff? And I think you guys were kind of going on to this, but some of the questions that we talked about in the planning was, about pushing boundaries, being cutting edge, and then just being comfortable about yourself. So any panelists that go ahead and talk about any of the things. I know we talked about multi-dimensionality in advocacy.
Well, first, I think you've got to let go of the imposter syndrome, which I definitely felt when I was nominated. I came up with every reason in the world why I did not deserve to be Teacher of the Year. I decided I was too young. I didn't have enough degrees under my belt. I didn't have enough experience in the classroom. That I was another person from Lincoln High and no one would want to give it to another person from Lincoln High. Just all these different reasons of like why I shouldn't go through with it, why I would never stand a chance. And I'm so glad that I had great people around me who encouraged me to go through with it and kept pushing me to do it. Because in hindsight, now it's much easier to say I did have the right stuff, but it's easy to talk yourself out of it and feel like you don't belong, when in reality, you definitely do. And now I'll let other people talk about what the right stuff is.
I might just stop sharing the slides. If panelists, is it okay if I stop sharing the slides so that we can kind of see? Okay, there we go. Because I feel like it's more of a discussion piece. So go ahead.
I think if you're looking for the right stuff, look how you feel in your own classroom every day. Don't look at all the things that are outside of that. When I went to see Sydney Jensen get her award in the classroom, I thought, capital W, capital O, capital W. I mean, wow. And I think that we step outside of the classroom and think it's all the extraneous things that make great teachers. It's just not. It's what happens when you close the door and you go in there and you teach those kids. And if you've got that, you've got the right stuff.
I like to tell people to think about their favorite units that they teach, the ones that they can't wait for when it comes to that time of the year when you get to teach that unit that you know is going to really have an impact. And like Sydney said, tell the story about the impact of those experiences that you've had with your students and where your students have taken those lessons forward.
I think one of the keys is, we had a list of things on there, talking about like robust curriculum and pieces like that. And no one has everything. So just go lean in hard on what you're confident about. I remember on my application, there was, the piece about your community service. And I just kind of readily admitted that I wished I had done more in that area. But, the pieces that I emphasized kind of at that time I was coaching debate, which took a huge, as the speech folks in the chat know, that speech and debate is kind of a vortex that consumes all time that's free to you. Lean. We've mentioned it several times. You just got to be authentic to who you are, right? And it's very apparent in the application if you're just kind of blowing smoke or if you're really diving into what truly is the right stuff for you, because there's not like a magic list we can provide you, but it's really hard for me to articulate. We've talked about how we've had a chance to, but I just remember when I reviewed the 2017 applications, you could just tell, like, it radiates off the page when someone really confidently, it's their passion, and it matches. I remember it matched in the video too, and Amber was the year after me, and I remember when I read her application, I was like, this is it. Like I could just tell. And again, that really is what it comes back to, is just whatever your strength is, just own it and rock it.
Well, and I would very much liken the process to that first year teaching, when you walked into that classroom and I mean, man, think of the fears that you encountered, right? And it is not that much different when you meet with that national crew of teachers of the year for the first time, all these alphas that you are convinced they are like heads above you. And everyone in the room is asking the same dang question. Why am I here amongst all these people?
Mhm.
And so there's something within you that carried you through that first week, year, and it's probably the same thing that's carried you through this COVID year and is keeping you in this profession. And the more authentic you are with who you are and what it is that drives you, because there's not a one of us that's similar in terms of what those passions are, but the ability to grab a hold of that courage when you're just scared as hell, like, man, they're going to see me as a phony, when really you are the right stuff. And the second you make that decision to move forward and start crafting who you are and put that out on your shingle for that committee to see, that the ball will be in their court. And so as you're going through that process of refining, who am I, whether you're 35 years into this profession, 17 years or 5 years, you're becoming a sharpened tool in which this profession needs you. And you're going to come out better serving this profession and serving in your job through applying. So I hope everyone in here does apply. And through one thing or another, you can only control so many variables surrounding whether you get it or not. But I have a feeling every single one of you probably is the right stuff for even being here inquiring about it. So, because I know, boy, there's been so many times throughout the process when I was applying as well as having it, where I look around and I'm connected with these state teachers of the year that I'm communicating with every day during a COVID year, where we should have been in each other's presence so many times before now. And yet, because of COVID, because of the challenge, we've probably connected more through Marco Polo and social media and phone calls than I maybe would have in a regular year. So, I mean, you don't know what challenges it's gonna present to you, but you are the right stuff. And the more authentic and transparent you can be with who you are and putting your best foot forward, the better shot you're going to have.
And I think one of the things I'd want to add here too is if you look across the resumes here from our size of school, because Paul and I come from a couple of pretty small schools, you know, and you look at Millard West and West Side, Lincoln High, much larger schools. You're excellent. You know, you want to put your roots down and then bloom where you're at, you know, and utilize the things that you're passionate about. I know Paul's big into birds. Mine was outdoor classroom and plants, trees, those sorts of things. That was what I used. I would not have been able to do that in Omaha or Millard or in Lincoln proper, that I was able to do out here. So what's your passion? How do you use that and share that passion with your learners? I think that's a huge part of it. And you utilize your passion to share with your learners and with those around you. And I think that was one of the lessons that I learned when I got with the toy class of 2000. Yeah, you'll get used to being called a toy too after a while. After the 2011 year, we still communicate. There are a cluster of us that communicate daily, weekly for sure, if not daily, right now. So it'll change your worldview and help you grow in so many ways.
All right, panelists, I think we could probably just open it up for questions if that's okay, panelists. I am going to pop into the chat. Sydney Jensen shared with me her national calendar from the national events calendar from her year. And so I was just going to pop that into the chat so people could look at it. Otherwise, we could open it up for questions. Go ahead and unmute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Perez, and I am an ESL teacher at Buffett Middle School, and I am applying for Teacher of the Year. Sydney, I definitely know what you are going through. I've been working on this since November. It is a very rigorous process. Paul, yes, I've been working on my video for 3 weeks, and it is interesting to say the least. I did have a question about the lesson plan. Since the lesson component was postponed, what specifically would you include in a lesson plan that would catch the panelist's eye?
Well, I can speak in terms of not having that actual ability to teach the lessons so they could see my style, and having experienced in a prior application process for Presidential Teacher of the Year, having to record a whole lesson. So I've kind of experienced both those worlds. But not having that actual being able to present the lesson, if it's a lesson that it's your favorite, you've done it several times, anything that you might have that might provide visuals. I know on my application, I included a lot of images, graphics, things that, because I have 3 teaching endorsements. One of them is in the health sciences. I do a transfusion lab where Godzilla attacks the school and the kids got to figure out how to transfuse the teachers to keep them alive because they got bit by Godzilla. That was the one I used. And so because I'd done a bunch of blood drives, National Honor Society sponsor. And so, I got pictures of the kids at the blood drive. I got pictures of the transfusion lab with the Godzilla and the food, like a food web thing. And, I figured that caught the committee's attention. I guess I got it, but anything that you can.
I am an ESL teacher. Pictures and visuals and graphic organizers are my life. So yes.
Bring out your
what I would do.
Bring out your Goofy. We want to see your Goofy because the Goofy is what sells. And
speaking of which, when I found out I was state toy, I thought I better have a toy to represent me. And so Battle Attack He-Man from my childhood is what I have in my toy binder.
He-Man.
He was the special one that when he got hit by Skeletor, it put a dent in his armor. So I figured I better have, you need to be thinking about that too. When you get it, all of you, what's going to be your toy?
We all have our own style of theater. And theater is so important to what we do, and selling what we do is so important. And people know how hard it is to really connect with other people's brains. I mean, at our core, the profession is us trying to do our best to figure out how somebody processes information and constructs knowledge the best, and then figuring out ways to help to empower them to make decisions to do that. And that's so difficult, but it's something that we bring all the little tricks out of our bag in order to do, and we want to see your tricks.
Patsy, what's the quote about preparation in theater? And I'll probably butcher it, but teaching is 10% preparation and 90% theater. Is that close?
That's correct. Yep.
So you sell it. I mean, you're a salesman every day when you walk in the classroom and you have to sell your subject matter. What do you teach? Well, we teach kids, but I taught kids using science, as did several others, and that's what you teach kids, and you use a particular discipline and a set of skills to help learners learn.
They got to know you are crazy about what you're teaching. Every day when you walk in there, and if you ask them whose classes they like to go to, they like to go to this teacher's classes because he loves teaching them and he loves what he's teaching. And I just think that's it. If you're crazy, if you're talking about right stuff, if you're crazy still, no matter where you are in the teaching line of years, if you're still crazy about it, you walk in and you're excited to be there and they see that, they're hooked. And that makes it wonderful for you too. And so you're a teacher of the year if you know that the kids see your passion and that you still have it and you don't want to give it up. ever.
Could I ask a follow-up question and then I'll be finished?
Sure.
In my application, there is like this one big unifying message across my speech, my future advocacy. You'll see it in my lesson plan. You'll see it in my essay questions. You'll definitely see it in my resume. Is that something that would, I mean, this is kind of rhetorical. Is that something that would be encouraged? Is like this big unifying thing that, oh yeah, this Perez guy is super passionate about these things and we can definitely see that. Is that kind of what the committee is looking for?
I'm going to jump in and say is if that's authentic to who you are, right? Like if there's an overarching theme to how you approach your career, then yeah, absolutely. It's like I mentioned earlier, it'll be apparent if you're trying to force it for the sake of having a coherent application versus you identifying that there's a consistent theme throughout, which there probably is, right? All of us have some kind of consistent theme in how we approach and why we do what we do in the classroom. But yeah, I would just say, as long as you don't feel like you're forcing it for the sake of the application, yeah, I mean, that makes
yes,
total sense.
it is very personal. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing that I would just add really quickly, when I was on the selection committee for the 2020 Teacher of the Year, I know that lessons really stood out when it was clear that students were learning and they were having a lot of fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you want to aim for, is that lesson that you're super proud of, where you're like, man, I take this difficult thing and I make it so much fun for kids. And it is so clear that they are really learning in my classroom. And so that is something I would encourage. I would echo what Tim shared about the overarching theme. Know that the committee that's reading the essays is going to sit down and read your application from front to back. And so an overarching theme is great. Just try not to be repetitive, I think. Make sure that you're using, because I teach English, I'm a writer, and so it was very hard. They give you these page limits of you have to get everything down on a certain amount, of pages. And so don't waste any space. Use all of that space to really share who you are and all of the things that you bring to the table and are passionate about.
And just to piggyback off of Sydney there, I think it's so important not to neglect your breadth and the wide variety of different things that you do. And this comes back to this idea is that we do so many things that are natural for us that we don't even give a second thought of how awesome certain things that we do are and how effective certain things are. And so part of the reflective process is really being honest about what you do well. And that is really hard for us here in the Midwest. We do not, and I'm not saying it isn't hard elsewhere, but we're really hard on ourselves, needlessly so. And you got to celebrate what you do and really think about it like, okay, oh, I do that. And this is where maybe conversations with your colleagues could be really helpful in preparing an application, because what they think you do well might have never entered into your mind at all. And you're not having the conversation because you're trying to set up, like a giant love session for you, where you're seeking out a bunch of positive feedback or something. You're doing it to learn things that you're not willing to admit about yourself that are good.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much.
I'm going to pop into the chat real quick, Sydney Jensen's teaching video. It's just there on YouTube, so you can look at it later if you want to copy that for to save for later. Are there any other questions?
I want to have all of you for teachers. Can I go back and be a kid again? Yeah.
Isa, is that Sydney's TED Talk? Is that what you linked?
No, that was her teaching video.
Oh, is there teaching? Okay, cool. Well, I guess one thing I just want to say, because I don't think we've discussed it earlier, is, once presuming you get it and you're named Nebraska Teacher of the Year, one thing I really want to emphasize to you is that there's not one right way to be a Nebraska Teacher of the Year. And, what you end up doing and speaking about, again, it all goes back to what we're talking about, true to your authentic self. The reason why I asked if it was her TED Talk is, you know, if you look at that piece, which was awesome, and I shared it with a bunch of people, you know, that message was on an important aspect of the profession. I kind of, you know, my year, I kind of dialed into my advocacy piece because I had already been doing like contract work and stuff. And so like I went and testified on a couple different bills that were very technical in nature, but also important. And like, if you were to watch those two videos, like if you were to take her TED Talk and like my testimony or something, or from many of our years, you might wonder if we even received the same award, just because, but that's important, right? And so just don't lose sight of that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, should you get this recognition? And Laura's on the call and she's amazing, right? Your coordinator is amazing and she is there to support you. And she truly does let you kind of build up what kind of message you want to promote, right? Because you'll get, you know, they put your name out there, you get to share, you know, what you're interested in talking about in terms of like from a professional development standpoint. You presented, you know, several different conferences and things, but it really is, it's your choice. And so it's just build off of why you even, you know, got to the point where you're filling out the application and getting the honor in the first place.
Are there any other questions? I will be sending you a link. I didn't give enough wait time, did I? Are there any other questions? Let me wait.
Well, and I'm going to throw one more thing out there. One thing that I've been thinking about in regards to my year, and I've been trying to think about from the beginning, this really presents an opportunity for whether you get it or not. This is going to help define you as a person within the state whom is very passionate about education and who is involved with producing action in education that is productive and that is going to help kids. And so in terms of like, there's this thought that I'm going to have this year to do all this stuff. And you kind of feel a clock ticking down on you. Like, you know, my year is half over already. But when you get Teacher of the Year, you are never not Teacher of the Year again. And so what I've been trying to do from the get-go, because no matter how much you think about it, there's always going to be that little bit of clock in your head, like, oh boy, it's going by. But you start to build a plan in your head of what do I want to do for change and for impact on things that are important to me that I feel like others can benefit from. And it can be just a one-year thing. I mean, some people, you know, that's what they're looking to do. But for me personally, and I know for several people on this panel here, this has become a long-term thing in which it's produced an avenue for platform items that they're still working on today. And so for me, and I've been building a website that's part of my 2021 platform. And there's 4 objectives on there. And I knew when I put those on there, those weren't all getting accomplished within the first year. And so I myself have plans out into the future that I'm hopeful in, that I'm guessing some of you have some things that you're pretty passionate about, that you're wanting to invest more than just a single year into. And then whether you get this or not, you're going to be investing in those things. And so just know that once you do get Teacher of the Year, you will never not be Teacher of the Year, and it's going to open up a ton of amazing opportunities. But if you don't get it, you're still going to have those opportunities to be able to make a difference and make an impact. So I'm really pleased to be able to meet you guys this evening, and I'm excited to see what the future holds as far as what you're going to do and where our paths are going to cross.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. I will be, for all of you attendees, I will be sending all these links that I sent, or that I put in the chat. Those will all be sent out to you as because you came tonight. So you'll be getting a link to Sydney's video, the calendar, and she also has supplied us with a link to her essay. So to kind of give you some ideas and some guidance.
And
Also,
folks, Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, Mike, go ahead.
Folks, reach out to us, okay? We know you're exhausted right now, okay? We're exhausted too. You know, I mean, I think that it's important for us to just understand where we all are right now, right? And so does it have to be done right now? No, but we'll be here. We want this program to continue to produce leaders, which is why we're here right now. We want to have the best education for Nebraska students, for US students, for students in the world, and we need you. We need you.
Definitely. I threw my email in there in the chat. Feel free to email me if you want someone to look over your essays. Like Esau said, she's going to be sending out, I shared my application essays. My advice is to not read them until you've drafted yours. I think that that was helpful for me to not, it's like if I look at someone else's, I'm going to become really one-track minded, and it's hard for me to get into my own brain and my own spirit. But I know that it's nice to see what it looks like. And so feel free to read over those. Please ignore any and all errors. I am an English teacher, but it was a lot. So there might be a comma in the wrong place here or there.
Eddie has a really good point in the chat asking about our NSEAU presentation, because we're going to do something coming up. Is that not right too? Am I remembering correctly?
I thought we had something lined up for that. Maybe I'm misthinking.
And some of us are presenting individually at NSEAU as well, I think. So for example, on the Tuesday, I'll be presenting on the importance of language choice and the language that we choose to communicate with our students and to recognize our students' needs and to nurture our students with language rather than the opposite. And it's a lot easier to not nurture than teachers think. And so I'm going to do sort of a quasi workshop format in which the first half, I'm going to give some examples. And then during the second half, I'm going to ask teachers to begin to work with their language and identify language that they can begin to change, small, little sustainable changes over time. In what, does anybody else have an idea of what they might be presenting at NSEAU that we could share right now?
Habits of mind.
Go ahead, Bob.
Habits of mind.
You like that, Bob.
That's terrific
and
stuff.
I like that you like that.
When are you presenting?
I don't remember. It's the summer sometime. I gotta go back and develop it now. That
well, I've been to one of your habits of mind. It's excellent.
One of the things we talked about with the summer program with NCAU is that it's too late to be in the application process. So we didn't think of the timing if that was right. That was why we opted for this one instead. You still have a chance of getting the required stuff done before the deadline. I think it's in July, isn't it? When
yeah, it's mid-July, so it's pretty up against the deadline.
It's too late to have it be of much use to you in this year's application. So maybe down the road, but it sounds like a number of us are already on tap there. So you certainly be able to come to those presentations. Of course, if it's like every other conference I've ever been to, all the good ones all happen in the same block of time. And then some other times there's nothing in there but
we just
stinkers,
repeat all of them, Bob. No, I'm just kidding. I did want to say that since we are recording this, we can share it out so that other people can see it. And I just wanted to give just a little bit of background on being a person that was part of the interview for the finalists. And so I think that is also something that is quite a day with Laura hanging out all day and I got to be on the Zoom part of it. So we spent 8 hours interviewing the finalists and watching they all did a lesson live for us that we got to then discuss and critique and go through. So we went through all their information previous to that, all the essays, all the resumes, everything, and then had a pretty, intensive, I don't know, Paul, was it pretty intensive? We were pretty intense.
Oh, it was great. It was just like having coffee with a group of friends.
It was good. I mean, we had a really
I mean, I was
diverse group.
nervous as heck, but it was relaxed.
Yes, I mean, it's a really good group that was, I mean, every year it changes of who's on that team. But it was a really good experience to be part of that. And we are very pleased. And I just think that if anyone has any questions about that part of it, I would be more than happy as a, person who's done that as well, to talk about, what the pros and the cons were to how you present yourself. And all of the other things are super important. But when you get to that finalist stage, it is a stage, right? It's a stage. You're on an interview stage, you are doing this work, and you are also knowing that you got to that finalist stage by having integrity, by doing what you needed to do across the board. And so it was a great day. And Laura cannot be a better coordinator for this program. I think
Amen.
she knows, forward, backwards, upside down, and whether we had to change a video or because at that time, you weren't, you might have been teaching remotely, right? And so you didn't have a time to do a video. So, I mean, that was a whole different, have to flip on a dime again and do a live presentation, a live actual lesson plan, which was, just awesome. I mean, it touched my heart to see such great talent that end up in our finalists. So thank you all for being Teachers of the Year. Thank you all for being here to hear about, what it takes, or what, but what it bottom line takes is every individual to take the step to do it. I mean, I think a lot of people talked about how hard it was just to take that step into the interview process. So thank you very much. And we will have this recorded, and then we'll be able to share out for other people. So if you know people who couldn't be here tonight and are interested, they can watch the video as well.
Thank you. And Laura just wanted me to point out that nominees will get, do you want to speak to that, Laura? I don't want to butcher it.
Sure. I think you had spoke a little bit about different emails, and in this group is wonderful. Good use of our Teachers of the Year. When individuals are nominated as well, I try to follow up with the nomination piece because I have the emails, and I send just a letter and a list of other Teachers of the Year as well. So if it is somebody that isn't on the call and they know somebody in their district or in the school, or a friend or something, that then they also have their information to contact as far as anything about the application process. If they were selected as Teacher of the Year, that you could maybe speak to them about. And of course, just any questions, you can always reach out to me in that as well. Was that the only thing I told you about that? I think so. Yeah. So
thank you.
Happy to help. Yep. Thanks for the kudos too.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, we can wrap up for tonight. Just know that I will get you, there will be a follow-up email for all of you who attended tonight with a few links in it. The ones that I put in the chat. I'll also send you again the NSCAU 2021 registration and a short little survey to see if you think that this is something we should do a part 2 of, or offer again next year. So thank you all.
Thank you for facilitating.
Yes.
And you'll include our names and our emails and
you.
all of that, Isa, won't you? Okay, good.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate all the excitement and all the passion. Like, just the positive vibes are so awesome. I'm so excited to get back in the classroom tomorrow. Like, seriously, a blast. Just, I mean, in a year where there's been so many downs, like just talking to great people and great teachers that are just so passionate, and hearing from so many people that are just looking to make the best of the lives of the students they have the opportunity to work with is it's fun. It makes this job so worth doing, and it makes it exciting to feel that community piece where we haven't necessarily felt that this year. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, y'all.
Thanks.
Sally, I don't know where the recording goes. You're muted. You're muted. We'll figure it out later. I can't. You're still muted.
Well, read my lips. Sorry. Kyle, looks like I got like lipstick on, but I don't. Oh, my lips are really red. Okay, so I've never stopped this before, and this is all recording, so this sounds probably gonna sound. So I hit stop. Okay.
Yep, hit stop.
Okay, then what happens? Because I didn't record it to the cloud. I think I just recorded it to my computer.
Is it are you all on a laptop?
Yeah.
And I see that. Okay. Yeah, just put it there and then we'll figure it out. I'll be
So
in.
I'm just gonna hit stop recording. I tried to find some instructions here. I'm gonna just say stop recording.